it made me look on the outside the way that I feel on the inside, which is dead. I can't even remember my intro because I don't want to do this. I continued to put my faith in white men, and they continued to disappoint me. Today's video is going to be the next installment in my Books That Wasted My Time series, where I talk about books that wasted my time. Today's video is going to be centered around a book that not only wasted my time, but killed any and all hope that I have inside of my body. I had faith, and now I have nothing. I have nothing left to live for. Like, my will to live was already clinging, hanging on by a thread before reading this book. And now it's gone. Let's talk about how I came to read Grendel's Game by something Moritzen. What is his name? Can't remember. He's a Swedish author, and I was going through this book list because I'm currently working on a secret video where I give book recommendations for a very specific type of book. And if you have any guesses, feel free to comment down below. All I can say is that it is disturbing. It is a very disturbing type of horror. And it is a type of horror that is kind of going around booktube and that booktube is currently fascinated with. So that being said, on this list was Grendel's Game. Ignore the airplane. Look, I'm not flying the motherfucker. Okay, so. Is it about to crash into my home? I wish I was on that airplane flying away from this video. This list said, hey, if you're looking for this type of book recommendations, read Grendel's Game. And so I was like, I found it on Scribd, and y'all know that I love me some audiobooks. I love audiobooks, and I also love just getting to randomly pick up a book and read it. Reading something that's outside of my TBR just because I want to. Not everything has to be structured. I'm a person who very, very, very much loves, thrives, needs structure, especially in my reading. There's something that's so satisfying about picking, like making a list of your books and figuring out like what you're gonna read and just working your way down that tight list. Why was that so sexual? This might be why I'm single. I don't know, take your pick. There's so many freaking reasons as to why nobody wants me. Started this audiobook and I was like, yes, this sounds really, really interesting. Now let's talk about what Grendel's Game is besides a disappointment. You have an inspector, a chief inspector in Sweden who receives a letter, a personalized note, if you will, from a cannibal. And this cannibal is like very sophisticatedly making a case as to why he's not insane and why it makes complete sense to eat human meat. And he's like, you know, I would love to eat children, but like they deserve to live. So like we're not gonna eat the children even though they have the most tender flesh. He's going into detail. Okay. And the chief inspector is like, what the fuck? And he's trying to figure out, hey, is this just like a crackpot? Or is I think that's the expression. I don't know. I've never said that before in my life. That is the whitest thing I've ever said. Wow. Okay. He's trying to figure out if this dude is for real or not. And the dude identifies himself as Grendel. And so this book is a thriller kind of retelling of Beowulf with our chief inspector protagonist. We're just going to call him John. I don't care what his name is anymore. His name is John. Okay. The book was standard run of the mill. And so he gets a standard run of the mill name. John. And so John is Beowulf, and the book is about him trying to capture this cannibal. And I was really excited about that premise. I was like, yo, that sounds really good. Some of my favorite horror books have cannibals in them. Absolutely, absolutely love the cannibal trope. Love the eating of human flesh trope in horror. I know that I'm sick and twisted. Again, this is why I'm single. And so I was very, very excited about this book. And look how that turned out. So as the book began, I was actually really, really excited about it. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, this letter is so well thought out and methodical. And the writer of the letter is right away kind of pinned as a mega megalomaniac, and a narcissist with a very high intelligence quotient, and as somebody who very well could easily be a threat to the police force and to the city. And as the story kind of unwinds, it begins to get more and more personal to John. John is being stalked. His family is put at risk. Things are disappearing around him, and it's very clear that this case is centric to something that he did in his past. So you're kind of digging through his past, trying to figure out, hey, what did he do to piss off a cannibal? And that essentially is the heart of the mystery. Now, the only part about this book that I was like really geeked about was the cannibal component. I really didn't care what he did in the past because I knew it was going to be something just boring. And of course, when you find out what he did, it was the most, like, I was like, oh my God, not another airplane.
I'm moving.
And when you find out what he did to piss Grendel off, it was just so bland. Like, my grandmother could have come up with a more enticing mystery, and she's no longer with us. So I'm just saying that isn't the reason that it wasted my time. The reason that this book wasted my time, took years off of my life, it turned me into the Crypt Keeper. It made me look on the outside the way that I feel on the inside, which is dead. And the reason that it did those things to me was because the plot twist was transphobia. Now, if you intend on reading this book and you don't want to know anything about it, then you should probably not watch this video, right? Because this is my case for why you should not read this book. I don't think anybody should read this book. I don't think this is a book people should be supporting. Obviously, y'all gonna do what you're gonna do. Like, I know that there's always some intrigue. There's always a group of people, right, who are like, ooh, I want to read the transphobic book. Like, I want to see what the tea is. If that's you, do you, boo-boo. But like, it could not be me. If I had been warned that the plot twist was transphobia, you know what I'm saying? It took years off of my life. I've said it before, I will say it again. I'm already Black, so my life expectancy is already short enough as it is. And Grendel's game. Let's talk about the plot twist. No, we're gonna go back. Let's go back. Let's electric shuffle. So before we get, oh my God, my eyelash got stuck together. So before we get to the transphobic plot twist, which is the plot twist is the reason why this book is a 1 star. Everything else was just icing on the shit cake. I could have had more fun making an actual cake out of my dog's poop and then eating it. Let's talk about the issues with this book before we arrive at transphobia land. And so the first issue was the sexism. So the way that women were talked about in this book was alarming, but I just was like, you know what? Thrillers and horror books in particular kind of occupy this very interesting space where the harmful ideologies and harmful kind of messages about certain groups in society are kind of excused because the whole point of the book is to shock and upset and all of that. And I have feelings on that, but we're not going to talk about that in this video. But it is pretty fair to say that, like, you can get away with writing certain things about certain people in horror and thriller and mystery books that you cannot get away with writing in contemporaries, literature, fantasy, etc. We're more critical. We're more socially critical of those books. And I'm not going to say whether that's right or wrong because, again, this video would never end and I already want to be done with it so that I can go back to crying in the corner over the fact that I had to read this book. All of that being said, the sexist undertones didn't really bug me much. When I knowingly pick up a book by a white cishet man, I expect some shit. That it comes with the territory, right? Like, I always expect there to be some kind of microaggression in the text, and I'm usually prepared for it. I was not prepared for the plot twist. Ain't nobody prepared me for that shit, okay? But I was prepared, and so it didn't annoy me. The sexism is what I'm trying to say. Why am I moving my hand so much? The part where the sexism got annoying is that one of the one of the what is it called when you're being interrogated? Suspects, excuse me. One of the suspects is a drop dead gorgeous woman, utterly beautiful, show-stopping woman, and the cops just completely lose all decorum, and they are just like making all of these comments about her and just being so, not another fucking plane. Okay, we're just gonna talk through it. I quit. They're just being so unprofessional about it, and I'm just like, all right, you know what, men, okay, fine, I'm gonna let that slide too. Then we get to the point where they are saying that it's because of her beauty that she is like a femme fatale, and that's the reason why they're investigating her, is because she's hot. They're like, no, this hot woman can clearly be up to no good. Ain't nobody that fine innocent. That was literally the reason she was being investigated. And I physically could not. I could not. And then they were like creating these big theories about how she like and don't get me wrong, like her character is jacked. Her character is jacked. And that's a part of the issue too, is that the kind of twist to her character, her entire character is based off of manipulating and seducing men. And so basically she sleeps with this dude's entire family. Okay, she sleeps with like the dad, the son, like she sleeps with everybody, okay? And they're all adults, you know? But in order to like trick men out of their inheritances, and that's her role in the story, and that just didn't sit well with me. The way that these cops like automatically looked at her and saw nothing but sex, and then of course that's what her character ended up being. Her character ended up validating the preconceived notions that these men had based off of her beauty, and it just felt like femmephobia. I didn't like it, and it also was so boring and overplayed, and the way that they constantly talked about how she was a femme fatale and how she was seducing the cops, and that's why the cops couldn't do their damn jobs. And I was like, you ain't seen a pretty girl before? You ain't seen no pretty girls before? You have never? Okay, it just didn't make sense, especially contrasted with the fact that the only other woman who had like a really big role in the book was John's wife, who is just wonderful, like a sweet woman. And it just felt like we were pitting and contrasting, and there was this like Madonna horror complex, and just didn't sit well. Now, to be fair, there were female side character cops that didn't suck, but then the other like female in a position of power, she is the one who like does internal affairs, or what was she was like the prosecutor, has a reputation for being, you know, a hard ass. And I did like that John, you know, kind of says like the reason that she's seen as a hard ass is because she's a woman, and we would not be. So it was like weird, because it felt like the author was trying, like doing his damnedest to to support women, but once that woman was hot and had any kind of sex appeal, it just went downhill from there. Like we were you know what, but he tried. It's a A for effort.
I'm really worried that was some kind of gang sign.
Look, I'm a book nerd, so like if it is, let me join the gang. I'm just saying, like if I was in the gang, I wouldn't have to have read this book, you know, like because we would be reading some other shit, not this shit. That was the first issue that we had with the book. Now we got to talk about the cannibal angle. The whole book, the entire book, the premise of the book, the promise of the serial killer, all of that is based off of the notion that he eats people. And the plot twist is that he does not eat people. It's all a joke. It's all a joke. I wanted people to be nommed, okay? I wanted people baked into breads. I wanted people necklaces. I wanted bone broth soup, okay? I wanted lady fingers that were actually made of fingers. I'm so upset about the fact that the whole premise of this book was a lie. I do not like that. I do not like that twist in books where it's like, oh, the house is haunted, but it's not actually haunted. Oh, there's a serial killer cannibal, but it's actually not a cannibal. I don't like that. It's not, because all you're going to do with that twist is irritate all of your readers. Nobody likes that twist. If you are a person who likes that kind of twist, please comment down below. Let me know. Let me know what book had this kind of false premise and you actually ended up enjoying it. I would love to see it. It just did not do it for me. Now there's an ambulance. I hope you're coming to get me. Yeah, there was that. It did not give what was promised to be gave. Not a dog barking. It's a zoo up in here. Let's talk about the plot twist. I had a feeling because there is a part early on in the book where they talked about how they were able to swab DNA off of an envelope because like the serial killer fake cannibal had licked the envelope, and they were able to like get a little sample, and they were like, oh, this couldn't be that femme fatale woman because the saliva sample was male. And that, get it, male, because it's a piece of mail. You've got mail. Oh, someone please date me. The whole neighborhood was quiet before we started filming this video, so I don't know why there's cows, monkeys, and moose coming out of the woodwork. You know what? Okay.
It is what it is.
I just had a feeling. I had an inkling. My transphobia alarm went off, and then I thought, surely not. Surely that's not where we're going. And that's where we went. It turns out that the serial killer, who is not even a cannibal, so why are we even here? He just used that to like lure in it just made no sense. The explanation as to why he was pretending to be a cannibal made no sense. It made zero sense. It was a broken cash register because it didn't make sense. I was pissed. I'm still pissed. But then it turns out that it's someone who felt wronged by John in the past. And so what this person did was have a whole sexual reassignment surgery just to dupe him in the future and then craft this like master plan. And I am so sick of that. Nobody is doing that. And again, it's just this premise, this idea, this harmful idea. J.K. Rowling perpetuated it in one of her thriller books again, where, the plot twist was a man in a dress. Or I think that was like the whole premise of the book, was that a man was dressing up in a dress in order to lure and kill women. And so this idea, how many planes are taking off? This idea that trans women are trans women to manipulate, to dupe, to obscure, to lie, to prey is so dated. It is tired. It is gross. It is unacceptable. And trans people deserve to be more than a fucking plot twist. And also, and I could have missed it. I don't know if the person actually identified as trans, because I tried really hard to forget everything about this book. But from what I recall, from what I didn't suppress, was that this person just transitioned just to... Why is everything in my life falling apart? Just transitioned simply to manipulate this. Oh, no. I remember. It was because they were put in a foster home and they went through all this trauma, and then they came out trans because of the trauma. Which again, that's not, it's this idea that you're trans because of trauma. You're trans because you're mentally ill. Nothing about this was okay. Everything about this was so dated. And the book was written, I think, in 2014 or 2015. And it's still just not giving. You can't say oh, well, this book was written 7 years ago, because we're still seeing that now. We're still seeing this plot twist and these tropes and these ideas perpetuated now in 2022. So it's not about, oh, we just hadn't had enough time to learn that trans people are human beings. It's that some of y'all just ain't learning. And also, it's not even about learning. It's sometimes this is a deliberate choice. You deliberately choose to depict trans people in this way. Because that is one thing that really annoys me about the whole oh, that person's ignorant. Because I would say 50% of the time, it's not that person's ignorant, it's that they are educated and they still choose hate. That's something we also need to talk about. It's not the fact that oh, they just didn't have access to education. It's that they continue to choose to not be empathic, to not be concerned, to not want to do better because they are inherently against those people by choice. That's not ignorance, that's a decision. Don't let me go on a rant about that. But honestly, I don't recommend this book, and it is part of a series, and it was unfortunate because I was really geeked about getting to read a non-US thriller, and also like, and there were things I liked about the book. I loved the way that like the police procedural part of the book I really enjoyed. I loved that part, and I loved how the protagonist, John, was very like diligent about his job and doing his job in a way that wasn't harmful. But never again will I read one of this man's books. I just, so let me know in the comment section down below if you've read this book. And and also, why did we need to drag Beowulf into this? Like, what? Why? It's just not giving. It just didn't make any fucking sense. Like, I'm so upset about it. So here's what we're gonna do. Leave in a comment down below, please leave suggestions for books that have cannibals that are actually cannibals. Some of my favorites are Hannibal, the Hannibal series, which also has transphobia in it. But so Tender is the Flesh, and what is the other one? Oh, Brother by Anya Alborn, which I haven't read yet, but I do love Anya Alborn's books. So anything other than those three would absolutely love recommendations for. And then if you made it this far in the video, if you suffered alongside me, congratulations, good for you. Oh, now the sirens are done. Now you're done? I hate racism. Why don't you leave an airplane emoji or a siren emoji, or type airplane or write siren, because that was the background music to this entire freaking video. So that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching another Bow Ties and Books production. If you want more content from me, if you want more tea, check me out on my Patreon. The Patreon pick for this month, the patron dedicated video, I mean, is me ranting about things that I hate about BookTube. So if you want some fun extra bonus content, early access, definitely check out my Patreon. The top tier also has the perk of me sharing excerpts and quotes and details about the writing process for my upcoming novel. Otherwise, all my social media links are in the description box below. Stay safe, be good to yourselves, be good to others, and I can't wait to see you in my next video.